Do you want to be able to write characters like Avatar: The Last Airbender's Prince Zuko, Death Note's Light Yagami, King of the Hill's Hank Hill, Brooklyn Nine-Nine's Raymond Holt, Harry Potter's Hermione Granger, and a long list of other characters who will pop up throughout this video? Then you should craft them using the information provided by the Enneagram of Personality on Type 1s. The Enneagram of Personality is a system that categorizes people into 9 primary personality types, each with their own unique set of fears, desires, and motivations. These types are further nuanced by wings, levels of health, and other factors, which offer a holistic approach to understanding human behavior and relationships. I found use of it through many things, with character creation being the best. It provides a nuanced framework for developing well-rounded characters. You just need to know how each type operates. In the world of storytelling, Enneagram Type 1 characters bring a compelling layer of moral complexity and steadfastness that drives narrative arcs and challenges other characters. Often cast as the moral compass of the story, their strong sense of right and wrong makes them relentless crusaders for change, justice, and betterment. This idealism is both their strength and weakness, as they can fall into the trap of perfectionism. Their critical mindset and unyielding standards can strain relationships and make them miss out on appreciating their own accomplishments. Type 1s are meticulously disciplined and value self-control, a trait that can teeter on rigidity. Their inherent sense of responsibility and fairness, combined with their inclination towards rules and structure, often put them at the helm of driving systematic changes or taking on greater burdens for the greater good. However, this can also fill impatience with inefficiency and immorality, as they find it hard to tolerate what they perceive as flaws in systems and people. Infused with a passion for causes and a logical, analytical approach to problem solving, these characters can be inspiring yet risk burning themselves out. Their sense of duty often calls them to service and sacrifice, but their constant striving for unattainable ideals can leave them emotionally and physically drained. The reason they're like this is because of their desire to be good, right, or virtuous. This is the psychological field that propels them through the narrative, influencing not only their choices, but also their emotional responses to the events around them. It's a constant inner quest for moral integrity and righteousness that often forms the crux of their personal growth arc. In essence, their basic desire isn't merely to do the right thing, but to be the embodiment of what is right and just, often putting them in conflict with more morally ambiguous characters. Conversely, their basic fear is of being corrupt, defective, or essentially bad. This fear can manifest as an inner critic, perpetually scrutinizing their actions and motives. It's a potent emotional undercurrent that can lead to poignant moments of vulnerability or precipitate crucial mistakes that propel the story forward. The fear of moral failure might make them hesitate to make tough calls, or conversely, it might push them to make impulsive decisions in the name of righteousness. This pull can lead to quite a few possible misbeliefs that become internal roadblocks to the character. Maybe they believe that perfection is attainable and are driven to a utopian world that places them in conflict with other characters. Another possibility is the belief that I am only worthy when I do right, which can create all sorts of emotional toll and make them susceptible to moments of doubt, isolation, and even betrayal. The list of possibilities can go on and on. Emotions are a weakness, or I must be in control of everything could create emotional restraints that put them at odds with more emotionally expressive characters. Black and white thinking such as people are either good or bad, or flexibility equals moral decay, could result in all kinds of conflict-filled relationships and missed opportunities due to their own rigidness. At the root of things, Type 1 misbeliefs are likely to be deeply rooted in their sense of morality and self-worth with relation to it, and it's going to be expressed through anger, either towards others or at themselves. Character development for an Enneagram 1 is ripe with emotional and ethical complexities. The crux lies in challenging their moral rigidness and self-imposed perfectionism. Moral dilemmas can force them to reconsider their ethical black and whiteness, while mentors and friends embodying other Enneagram virtues can introduce the beauty of flexibility and compassion. Mistakes and challenges are key. A public failure or a worthy adversary can prove to be transformative, nudging them to embrace imperfection and the fact that they don't have a monopoly on rightness. Personal experiences like loss of control, relationships with more relaxed individuals, and engaging in altruistic deeds without the need for perfection can expand their worldview. Vulnerability, whether emotional or physical, and exposure to diverse perspectives can soften their hard edges, making them more adaptable and empathetic. If they can come out on the other side, there's all sorts of heroic potential for them. They shine as the archetypical heroes, unwavering in their pursuit of justice and morality. Their unquestionable integrity makes them ideal candidates for leadership roles, especially in ethical dilemmas. A Type 1 leader is not just about rules. They aspire to inspire, leading by example rather than dictation. Unlike some, they won't bend their ethics for convenience or personal gain, making them incorruptible and reliable. When at their best, they bring a blend of idealism and pragmatism, understanding that not everyone can meet their lofty standards. However, rather than being dictatorial, they provide a living example of their principles. Whether it's mediating conflicts with impartiality or prioritizing the good of all, a Type 1 hero encapsulates the traits most cherished in enduring leaders. Their steadfastness is doing what's right, even in the face of adversity, elevates them from merely good to genuinely heroic. Of course, not every Type 1 ends up overcoming their worst traits. Instead of lawful good, we tend to get lawful evil characters instead. An unhealthy or a villainous Enneagram Type 1 takes the archetype's quest for righteousness to an extreme, becoming rigid, self-righteous, and controlling. The tunnel vision of their moral code leaves no room for dissent or debate, making them uncompromising arbiters of their own skewed sense of justice. Their rigidness and intolerance of failure manifest in punitive measures against anyone who doesn't adhere to their high standards so unrealistic that they invariably lead to disappointment and resentment. This makes them controlling figures who enforce their rules without compassion or understanding, often alienating those around them. An unhealthy Type 1 can become so fixated on eternal flaws that they engage in scapegoating, blaming others for societal ills while ignoring their own imperfections. The obsessive pursuit of an unattainable ideal may also spill over into their personal lives. Emotional suppression and compulsiveness become coping mechanisms to maintain the facade of perfection, but this only distances them from meaningful relationships. Their inability to relax or adapt renders them perpetually on edge, escalating conflicts and creating an atmosphere of tension. Finally, when they feel they've failed to live up to their own rigid ideals, they can exhibit self-destructive behavior or make questionable choices that further deviate from their ideals, pushing them into a vicious cycle. They take on the unhealthiest aspects of the Type 4 and become furious characters obsessed with certain ideals when they aren't beating up themselves. An unhealthy Type 1 can serve as a compelling antagonist or lead, offering a nuanced look at the dangers of an unyielding moral absolutism. They stand as a cautionary tale, showing what happens when the pursuit of rightness overshadows empathy, flexibility, and human connection. As you can tell, there's a lot you can do with Type 1 characters. In fact, if you're writing moral hero dramas, lawyer stories, or police stories, you're likely to include a Type 1, though they are versatile types that can fit into all kinds of stories. You could write a dystopia where their ideals are in conflict with the world around them. You could write a fantasy epic where they're the wise, just leader, or knights upholding the law of the land. They could be a straight-laced character who needs to learn to loosen up in romances. The list goes on and on. So much so that I'd love to hear about ideas for Type 1s you have. Have you written any? I find it difficult for me not to, since I work predominantly with mystery/crime thrillers, so I'd enjoy to hear about how other people tackle these. That, or, if you don't have any fictional examples that stand out to you. Tell me in the comments and let's get a conversation going. And if you enjoy writing videos like this one, be sure to support the channel by liking the videos and spreading it to any who you believe it can provide value to.